Alright, drafters, we've got something coming up which I've been looking forward to for quite a while, and that is Shadows over Innistrad Remastered. Both Caldesh Remastered and Amonkhet Remastered were sets I really enjoyed on Arena, and it was nice to have a bit of a flashback to them. And I like when they pop up from time and time again, so I've been waiting for Shadows over Innistrad Remastered for quite a while. I think Amonkhet Remastered was a while ago now at this point, but it's here, and I'm pleased that it's here. Now, if you weren't aware, it is a combination of Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon, which are the two sets which made up the Shadows over Innistrad block. And they've been mashed together in this one set, and you've got cards from both sets going on. If you went around at the time, it was a return to Innistrad, and you had characters like Archangel Avacyn coming in, which we've seen before. We also had Nahiri coming in from Zendikar. She was a bit annoyed that Sorin had left Zendikar to be laid waste by the Eldrazi after she was locked away in stone and keeping them captive for years and years and years. So underlying this as well, there's this mystery going on, there's something going on, people aren't quite sure. You got Tamio with leaving some clues and things like that, and it turns out the big mystery is that Emrakul's come into the plane. Nahiri's brought Emrakul to lay waste to Innistrad because she was annoyed about what happened to Zendikar, and it's corrupting the things that are going on the plane, and it brings us kind of eldritch horror on top of the monster horror that we've seen on Innistrad in the past. Now, of course, we've got the normal spirits, we've got humans, we've got zombies, we've got werewolves, we've got vampires. There's the 5 tribes of Innistrad, and these are going to become back in the allied colour pairs that we've seen before. We just saw in Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow as well. These same colour pairs had these same tribes. But there's a few other things going on as well. We've got a few mechanics which are kind of one-offs. So first of all, we've got Skulk, which was a mechanic which meant that the creature couldn't be blocked by other creatures with greater power than it. So you've got Fogwalker here, it's only got power 1, but it's unblockable if your opponent only has 2 with creatures with power 2 and above. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 and above. If you pump its power, then it can be blocked by creatures with more power, but you know, that's kind of how it works. And it was brought in, it seemed to be like it's going to be quite a common thing that we saw, but we've never really seen it since. We've also got Delirium here, so Delirium cares about whether there is more than 4 cards or 4 or more card types in the graveyard. So remember, card types: artifacts, creatures, enchantments, lands, instant sorceries, planeswalkers, all that type of stuff. Legendary doesn't count, that's a super type, but those are a lot of the card types that you can have. And generally, the card or the spell will be more powerful if the Delirium threshold is met. And another one, which you'll see in a few cards, is Escalate. It's a way to do these modal spells, and it means you can choose one of the options, but if you pay the Escalate cost, you can choose another one of those options. So you can't choose the same one more than once, but you can pay each of these. So for Blessed Alliance, if you pay 1 in a white, you can choose one of the options. If you pay 3 in a white, you can choose 2 of the options. And if you pay 5 in a white, paying the Escalate cost twice, you can choose all 3. Sometimes there's 3 options, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 4. Just depends on the card. Another mechanic that's come back that you might not have played with before, because I don't think it's on Arena at the moment. It might be on a little bit, but it is Madness. So Madness is a ability which it means that if you discard a card with Madness, you can pay its Madness cost, and you can cast it. And that often means it instant speed as well. If you can discard it instant speed, you can cast it instant speed. Fiery Temper here costs a single red as for its Madness cost to deal 3 damage to any target. So it's in a lightning bolt when you discard it, or it's 1 red normally, which is still a fine cost to pay if you've really got to. You know, that's absolutely fine. But you want to discard it, so you need to discard outlets like Lightning Axe here, and this was a really common 2-card combo because both of these were common in the original set. Fiery Temper has been upshifted to uncommon in this set. There's been a few shifts. I'll talk about that in a second. But Lightning Axe, pay 1, deals 5 damage to any creature, but you got to either pay 5 or discard a card. So you cast Lightning Axe for a single red, you discard Fiery Temper, you cast that for a single red, you deal 3 damage to one thing, 5 damage to another. It's absolutely bonkers. Like I say, bit of a you won't say this is often because Fiery Temper has been upshifted to uncommon. There's been a lot of rarity shifts. Thermo Alchemist is one which I'm going to be really annoyed that it's not common, because I was looking forward to playing a deck with 4 Thermo Alchemists, but I won't be able to. Never mind anyway. But there's a lot of things that have been shifted from rare down to uncommon, including the rare land cycle. And there's even been a blue removal spell which has been shifted from rare down to common. So there's things that have been shifted all over the place. Some commons to uncommon, some uncommons to common, some rares to uncommon, and even 1 rare to common as well. A couple more mechanics that are in. There is Emerge, and there's also Meld. So we've seen Meld relatively recently in Brothers War, and there's actually a Meld pair at common and uncommon. So you've got Midnight Scavengers here as the uncommon part, and it melds with Graph Rats. I think there's an uncommon and a rare, and then a rare and a mythic pair as well. So be on the lookout for those. But yeah, I've got Abundant More here, and it has Emerge. So Emerge has an alternate cost, a bit like Madness. The normal cost will always be colourless, and it's usually quite a large cost, and the emerge cost is always one less, and it contains a coloured mana symbol as well. And that can be reduced even further, because what you're going to do is you're going to sacrifice a creature when you use the emerge cost, and you get to reduce that emerge cost by the mana value of the spell. So a card like Midnight Scavengers would be quite a good choice here. You can get its ETB ability, which is quite good for 5 mana. You get this creature, and then what you can do is you can sacrifice the Midnight Scavengers. You reduce that emerge cost by 5, so now it only becomes 1 and a black to cast it, and it's a really cheap way to get this massive creature on, which has a really good on-cast ability. And all of the emerge cards have an on-cast ability of you gain 3 life and your opponent loses 3 life, so that's going to be pretty strong. Now, on top of all of this, we're actually getting cards from the old Innistrad sets as well. So these are being on like a bit of a bonus sheet, like you had the retro artifacts in Brothers War. We've had the Mystical Archive in Strixhaven, both of which we've seen relatively recently. And these are going to have a different sheet every week. So the set's going to be out for 4 weeks on Arena, leading up to March of the Machine. And it's going to have a different sheet each week. So the first week, week 1, which is going to be starting this coming Tuesday, and it's going to be going until the following Tuesday, is all of our creature type matters. It's looking at the 5 creature types of Innistrad. That's human, werewolf, vampire, zombies, and spirits. So there can be different cards there. I've just put a selection of them on the screen here. The second week is going to be on flashback cards. So more instants and sorceries might be better for the blue-red archetype in this case, but there's going to be some in all different colours. We've got some really classic ones here: Spider Spawning and Burial Rites and Lingering Souls, which are all powerful cards, which are really, really iconic to the plane. Week 3 is all about morbidness, dies triggers, morbid ability, and things like that. So you've got Doom Traveller, which when it dies creates a 1/1. You got Young Wolf, which cares about things dying, and Bloodflow Connoisseur, which also can sacrifice creatures and get more powerful when you do that. And it's an instant speed sacrifice outlet as well. So some really powerful cards there. But the most powerful are going to be in the last week, and these are just kind of the really powerful iconic spells from Innistrad. You got Gristlebrand, you got Snapcaster Mage, you got some really powerful ones there. Also Tragic Slip, so it's not all just like these really big powerful mythics. I think that the last week's going to be interesting to play, but you're going to have Tragic Slip as well, and you know, just some really good common removal spells and just really iconic cards from Innistrad. It's going to put a new dimension on it. I think I like the fact that they're changing it up every week a little bit, just keeps the format a little bit fresher. I'm not sure how they're going to do the rarity shift. I think there's 16 or 18 cards per week in this slot, and you're going to get 1 card per pack. I don't know if some are going to be more common than others, or what. I don't know if you're going to get a Gristlebrand in 1 in every 18 packs in the final week. I don't know. It could be, they could skew it for rarity, and they probably will, but it means that, like, if they do skew it for rarity, some of the common and uncommon ones are going to be shown quite a lot. Like Tragic Slip will be all over the place in the 4th week, if it's a lot more common than the mythics are as well. So we'll have to wait and see how that works. Now, before we go into the rundown of the archetypes, I always like to go through and give everybody who clicks the subscribe button, clicks the like button, puts a comment down below, a big thank you. A little thank you in the fact that I've got some codes on the screen, and there's going to be one in the comments down below as well. Just trying to mix up how I do these a little bit, but there's one code for Arena down below. There's 2 codes on the screen. I can't remember exactly what they are. I think some are F&M promo ones, some are pre-release promo ones. It's just whatever I pull off the pile to start with. But yeah, thanks everybody who support the channel. It is really, really appreciated, and I still can't believe that so many people watch the channel. Not a big channel like some of the big ones out there. You know, every click of that subscribe button does mean a lot to me, whereas, you know, somebody's got 100,000 subscribers, I'm sure you're just a number to them. Not really. Obviously, they do appreciate it all as well. But, you know, a smaller channel, which is, I say starting out, I've been going for a little while now, but, you know, it is really, really appreciated. So just a bit of a thank you. Anyway, let's go into the archetypes. And the first one I've got is Blue-White Spirits. Now, the Spirits deck is going to be bit of a Temple Flyers deck. You've got Spectral Shepherd here, which is 2 and white for a 2/2 flyer, so it's Windrake stats already. It's not bad, and it's got this activated ability: 1 in blue, return a target spirit you control to its owner's hand. Now, if you can leave this up at instant speed, it's going to be quite good because you can protect your own creatures, but it's going to be even better if you can get something small like Topplegeist here. So Topplegeist, 1 mana, 1/1. It does have Delirium as well. So it enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls, which is a really good effect, especially if you can kind of bounce it in your hand and replay it. 3 mana every turn to bounce the Topplegeist back and then replay it. You could play the Topplegeist, tap something, attack with the other creatures, leave the Topplegeist up the block one of their things, return it to your hand with the ability from Spectral Shepherd, and then next turn play it again and tap something down again. So, you know, you're a real winner there. If you're in the late game for whatever reason with this deck, you probably want to be winning quite quickly. But if you are in the late game and you've got a lot of mana left open, you can return the Topplegeist to your hand, you can play it, tap something, return it again, play it again, tap something else. And then if you get the Delirium trigger as well, you're really, really off to the races. And Delirium will be something which sometimes you want to build towards, sometimes you want to try and put artifact creatures in your deck so you can get an artifact and a creature at the same time in the graveyard, but other times you're just going to get it naturally, and it's a nice bonus when you do get it. I've also got Essence Flux here, which is playing off of this enter the battlefield, and not every spirit's got an enter the battlefield ability, but quite a lot of them do. And exile target creature you control, then return it to the that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a spirit, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it. So pretty good flicker effect here for a single blue, especially if you're in spirits, and I think it's going to be a really powerful player in this archetype. Blue-green is centered around investigate, and investigate basically just means create a clue. Now you've got some things which make clues and you can use them, some things which get better when you sacrifice clues, or sometimes it can even give you something which you can sacrifice clues for other effects as well. But you've got ongoing investigation as the marquee card here. It's 1 blue. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, investigate. So you get to make a clue every turn if you're getting in. It could be quite good in a Spirits deck as well if you've got a lot of flyers and getting in there, but you know, it's got this activate ability, 1 green, exile creature card from your graveyard, investigate, you gain 2 life. So you get to investigate and you get to gain some life. Other cards we've got here is you've got Dare and Sleuth, so when you sacrifice a clue you get to transform it, and transforms into something a little bit better. And then Ulven World Mysteries as well, 2 and a green. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. So, you know, something dies, you get a clue from it. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, create a 1/1 human soldier creature token. Obviously, when the token dies, you don't get a clue, but it's a way to kind of like loop these things and get some really good value. Looks like a fun way to play. I don't think it's going to be amazing. I don't remember it being really, really good back then, but it is fairly powerful. You know, it can get away with the game, and I don't think it's going to be massively weak at all. Green-black cares about Delirium. It's a main colour pair which cares about Delirium. And you've got the marquee card here, Mourn Willow, 1 black-green for a 3/2 haste, which is fine already. We've seen some effects before. But when it enters the battlefield, if there's 4 or more card types in your graveyard, creatures of power 2 or less can't block this turn. So opponent's got a lot of small creatures that can get in quite easily. I think it's a bit of an interesting one. This kind of like hasty creature doesn't really seem to fit with the with what I remember of the Delirium deck. It seemed to be a bit more of a grindy deck, but you can get some enablers with things like Vessel of Nascency, which you can sacrifice. You can fill your bin with a load of stuff, and you can get the this has been upshifted to uncommon from common, by the way, but it was a good way to fill your graveyard with different card types. And then you also got Dusk Feaster here, 5 black for a 4/5 flyer, but it costs less if you have Delirium. Now I did look at the number of cards of Delirium, and it didn't seem to be very many, and it's not really centered in black green. It is centered in black green, but it's, you know, I've already seen a Topplegeist was a white Delirium card, and it's across all colours really. So I'm not sure how good it's going to be or how strong you want to build towards Delirium here. But, you know, it might work for you. It might end up being really good. But I didn't see a huge amount, especially common and uncommon, with Delirium. And it might just be the green-black. It's a bit of a rock deck with some good creatures, good removal, and good value. Black-white was a weird one because it doesn't really seem to have a theme. We've got Anguish Unmaking, which was a rare. It's been downshift to uncommon as the Signpost Uncommon, which is just a really good removal spell. You know, exile target non-land permanent, you gain 3, you lose 3 life. So it's kind of like a Vindicate-esque removal spell. It is powerful. It's just not really telling you very much about what it does. And looking through the black-white cards, I couldn't really spot anything. But I did want to talk about a couple of cards that I do quite like. We have Lone Rider, which is a transform card, 1/1, trample lifelink. And if you gain 3 life in your turn, you get to transform it, and it transforms into a 4/4 first strike trample lifelink. Now, I loved back then, I was quite a new player, but I did love trying to transform this card. And when you did, it was really powerful. You get an early 4/4 first strike trample lifelink. You usually want to use a pump spell, but there is a little bit of life gain that you can use as well. And, you know, obviously when you flip it, it's a really, really powerful card. But it's quite difficult to flip. It's not really a great strategy if you're trying to get it, and it can be just removed with a normal removal spell. Got Certain Death here as well. 5 and a black, destroy target creature, its controller loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Now, this isn't to try and flip it that rising as 1. It's just trying to say that black, as usual, has some really powerful removal spells. So that could be a way that you just kind of build a bit of a rock deck with your black-white deck as well as your black-green deck. I don't know. It's a bit loose, and maybe they just kind of thought, we'll just kind of leave it with a really cool card, which used to be rare, and now it's uncommon. So yeah, maybe that's the way it's going to go. Blue-black is, of course, zombies, and the signpost card is Drowning Corpse Trawler. 3 in a blue for a 1/1. Well, it's got to have something else going on with it. It enters the battlefield, makes a 2/2 black zombie creature token, which is pretty good. You get 2 bodies from it. And 2 in a black, target zombie you control gets death touch until end of turn. So pretty good value thing. If you can bounce it at your hand somehow, that's going to be pretty good. If you can flicker it, that's going to be quite good as well, because you can get another 2/2 from it. And using that ability to as a threat of activation is going to be quite powerful as well. People aren't going to want to block your zombies when you've got this and some mana untapped. And they're not really going to want to swing into them as well when you got the mana untapped as well. So they're going to be really caught between a rock and a hard place. Other cards we've got which care about zombies, we've got Compelling Deference, 1 in blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. That player discards a card. If you do, if you control a zombie, sorry. So bounce something to your opponent's hand, and then if you've got a zombie, they've got to discard something as well. If that's the only thing in the hand at that point, they've got to discard that card. If you bounce a token, then they've got to discard a card and they lose a token as well. So it can be quite a powerful card, especially if you have a zombie. We've seen 1 in blue bounce a non-land permanent to its owner's hand before. We prefer blue. We prefer just blue. I can't remember the name of the card. A single blue bounce spell. But unsummoned. There we go. That's what I was wanting to say. Unsubstantiated. But yeah, we've seen it unsummoned before. But we do often see these 1 in blues, and the fact that this is a discard spell as well, potentially, if you've got a zombie, is going to be pretty good. Also got Giss as Bidden, 2 black to make 2 zombies, but you can cast it for its madness cost for 2 in a black. So, 3 mana make 2 zombies is going to be really good. You can do it at instant speed if you can discard it at instant speed as well. And it's a good way to get a number of zombies on the battlefield, which is always going to be good in your blue-black deck. Black-red is centered around Madness. So we've got, Madness and Vampires. So we've got Olivia's Bloodsworn here, 1 in a black for a 2/1 flying. It can't block, which seems fair for a 2/1 flyer for 2, but single red, target vampire gains haste until end of turn, so you can give your vampires haste. But we'll also have a lot of the madness stuff centered in here, so I think it's going more about madness than it is about vampires, but vampires will be in there as well, and quite a few vampire cards have madness abilities tied onto them. So we've got Call the Bloodline here, 1 in a black, single mana, discard a card, create a 1/1 black vampire knight creature with lifelink, activate only once a turn, and this is a really good way to get your discard spells out. We've already seen Fiery Temper as well, really solid removal spell. It's gonna be a big player in this deck, even though it's an uncommon. But it is a powerful card, and I can see why it's been shifted to uncommon. And yeah, it's just gonna be a bit of a madness deck, bit of a aggro deck from what I remember as well. It was quite a fast deck, red black, or it could be, and the madness does really help accelerate things a little bit. Blue-red is instants and sorceries matter. So you've got Mercurial Geists here, 1/3 flyer for 4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +3/+0 till end of turn. We've seen this kind of Wee Dragonauts effect quite a lot. We've got a lot of instants and sorceries in this archetype as well. Pieces of the puzzle here, 2 in a blue. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put 2 instant and or sorcery cards from them into your hand and the rest in the graveyard. Good way to fill your graveyard for some delirium effects and things like that as well. It also gets 2 extra instant sorceries to your hand, so it's going to get you a lot more gas for this deck. And Thermal Alchemist is unfortunately upshifted to uncommon from common, which is an crying shame because I was really looking forward to drafting with it at common again. But it is powerful, and when you have a lot of them, it does get a bit out of hand. That's kind of fun. Only certain decks can really make use of it, but I think it's a solid card, and you're going to be wanting to play these in your blue-red decks. It is really good, and it's just one in a red for a 0/3 tap to deal 1 damage to something is going to be quite good anyway, and then the fact you can untap it every time you cast it into sorcery is just even better. It's a really powerful card. Red-white. We have Ride Down as the signpost uncommon, so red, white, instant speed, destroy target blocking creature and the creatures that it was blocking, then gain trample. So it essentially destroy target the creature that's blocking, but it means that essentially the creatures that blocked were never blocked in the first place because they get trample, so they get a trample over their whole damage. Really powerful blowout card. People can, it's one thing to give your creatures trample and then the trample over, but to remove one creature and then let the damage come through is, really powerful. Other quite aggressive spells, because red-white is just going to be aggressive. You have Rush of Adrenaline here, single red, instant speed, target creature is +2/+1, and gains trample until the end of turn. That's going to end some games. And we've also got Faith Unbroken, which I thought was an interesting one, which I don't actually remember. It's 3 in white. I don't remember how good this is, but enchant creature you control when this enters the battlefield, exile target creature you don't control, and the enchanted creature that you have gets +2/+2. So it grows your creature, it takes one of your opponent's creatures out of the way. Of course, you can get blown out with a removal spell with this, but giving it +2/+2 is going to help it survive things like Fiery Temper. And yeah, it's quite a powerful card, I think. You know, like I say, blowout potential is definitely there. You've got to be careful with it, but this, again, 3 cards here which can all end the game out of nowhere, and it's something you're going to need to be wary about when you're playing against red-white. Red-green is werewolves, of course. Now, this is the old werewolf mechanic, not the day-night cycle one. So the tricky part with this was you still don't want to cast spells on your turn to transform your werewolves, but if you don't do that, your opponent could cast a spell in your end step, and then that kind of negates what you do, because it cares about whether neither player casts a spell, or then to transform them back, it cares whether either player is casting 2 spells. So it's they are quite tricky, and your opponent can blow you out with them, and it is a bit frustrating. But a lot of them have some good activated abilities here. So you see Uldric's Kindred, 2 in a red for a 3/2 trample. Not a bad stat line already. 3 in a green, target attacking wolf or werewolf gains indestructible until end of turn. So you can play this, you can use that ability when you're attacking in, and then the werewolves that you have, something like Duskwatch Recruiter, will transform when you don't use it. Duskwatch Recruiter has got its own activated ability, and you can transform it back. One thing to mention here with this archetype as well is the Eldritch Moon werewolves were all affected by Emrakul, so they don't transform back to human once they transform into a werewolf, and that is something that you need to be aware of when drafting this archetype. And finally, green-white is the humans archetype. So we've got Veteran Cathar here, which I remember being a very good card. 2 in a green for a 2/2, and then 4 in a white, target human you control gains double strike until the end of turn. So again, threat of activation with this is real. I just remember green-white humans being pretty good, and this being a powerful card in there. We've got other things which care about humans. You've got Courageous Outrider, 3 in a white for a 3/4. Enters the battlefield. Look at the top 4 cards in your library and get a human from them, put it in your hand. So it's essentially draw a creature card. Really powerful, decent body on it. 3/4 for 3. 3/4 for 4 is still, it doesn't quite pass the vanilla test, but it's pretty powerful. And there's quite a lot of small things. Well, it's big things and small things in the format. But a 3/4 is going to be pretty good most of the time. They've also got Intrepid Provisioner, 3 in a green for a 3/3 trample. Again, not the worst stat line in the world. And when it enters the battlefield, target human you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or another target human you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So again, going to be quite a combat focused archetype. Going to be caring about attacking in. There's a lot of attacky type of things in this format, so maybe it's looking like it's going to be quite a fast format. Probably not as fast as we've been used to, because it doesn't have the power level of the modern day sets, but there's quite a lot of good stuff going on here. For Fixin, we've got a few different Fixin cards. We've got Cryptolith Fragment here, 3 mana for essentially a Manalith. It does transform into a pretty good beater on the flip side once somebody gets below 10 life, and it does close out the game. At that point, you're probably not wanting the Fixin the ramp, because you've got this good card anyway, so that's absolutely fine. We've got Terrarian, a single mana, and then you can pay 2 and tap it. You add 2 mana of any colour, you get to draw a card, and it also puts an artifact in your graveyard for those delirium effects, so that's important as well. We'll have what would have Snarls in Strixhaven, and they were originally called the Showlands here. They were rare, now they're uncommon, which is an interesting step. I think it's good for Constructed, because it means the wild cards are a bit cheaper. These aren't really great cards for Constructed, but they are there as a good budget alternative. So I think they're in the allied colours, so the same colours as the 5 tribes, and then the enemy colours have the tap lands, just ignore tap lands. All of them are uncommon. I don't think they're like 1 per pack or anything like that. I think they're just potentially in the uncommon slot. So that Fixin seems like it's going to be quite good. We've obviously got the normal green kind of ramp and Fixin type spells as well, which I haven't shown on here, but they are there as well. 3 colour decks, or like 2.5 colour decks, are probably going to be a lot easier to do than have been in some recent sets. Not looking at you one, but I don't expect like 5 colour rubbish just to be run wild all over the place either. Counter spells, we've got 3 counter spells at common and uncommon. There's a couple more at rare as well. So you've got Deny Existence, 2 in a blue, counter target creature spell. If it's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it in its graveyard. We've got Convolute, 2 in a blue, counter target spell unless controller plays 4. And then finally we've got Invasive Surgery, which I don't think is the best card in the world, but counter target sorcery for a single mana, which could be good, especially if you see your opponent's got a really good sorcery spell, but it's not even instant or sorcery. And then Delirium Trigger isn't great and limited. You get to search the library, hand, and graveyard for any card which have the same name, and you get to exile them all. So It's a cool card. I don't think it ever really saw any constructed play, but it was obviously intended to potentially do something unconstructed, but I don't think it's a card that you want to play. Whereas the Nihilist and Convolute are probably absolutely fine cards to play. We've got 11 instant speed tricks with mana value 1 or less. So we've got 4 in red. We've got Borrowed Hostility for a single red. This is an escalate card, so it does quite a few different things, and it's worth knowing what to do. We've got Galvanic Bombardment, which is a bit of a shock variant. We've got Lightning Axe, which we've already seen, and we've also got Rush of Adrenaline, which we've already seen as a combat trick. There's, like I said, there's a lot of different things that red can do with 1 mana or less. If you see on Arena, if you see the opponent floating mana or just not being able to pass, then they can have any one of these. White only has 1 instant speed trick at 1 mana. Target gets +2/+2, and if you control an equipment, you get 1/1 as well. There is a bit of a sub-theme of equipment here, but I don't think any of the equipment's great. But still, single mana, get +2/+2 is fine. Not great, but fine. Black also has its own escalate spell, so it's worth knowing what this can do. Green's got an investigate pump spell, so you investigate, and any creature gets bigger depending on the number of clues you have. So it's going to get at least +1/+1, and you get this clue to cast as well. But if you see a single green floating, then you know they've got this card in the hand. And then blue's got 4 different cards. We've seen a few of these, like Essence Flux and things like that. Invasive Surgery is not really a spell that you'll see, but if the only floating mana when you cast a spell, that's probably what they've got. And there's other bits and pieces as well. Finally, we have the Boogeyman on the format. Now, this has to be the one and only Emrakul, the Promised End. 13 mana, okay, but it does become a lot cheaper quite easily. It is a really, really powerful card. If your opponent casts this, they essentially win the game, and it's very, very difficult to deal with. You know, it's got protection from instants, and it's got Flying Channel to 13/13. Yeah, you're going to need something which doesn't target it at instant speed to destroy it. It's yeah, quite scary. I think Plummet was a Plummet. Although I'm sure in the original set, I'm not sure, I haven't checked if it's in this set, but there was an instant speed target opponent sacrifices a creature with flying, and that was the cool way to deal with this. But it doesn't target, they've got to sacrifice it, and it was an instant speed card as well. So, you know, they still get to take over your turn, the next turn, but I don't know. It's still pretty cool. So, yeah, it's in the format. Apparently, it's really difficult to program in. I'm not surprised, but it's a really cool card. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you get some benefit out of it. I don't know what's going to be happening with the March of the Machine primer. It's probably going to be a little bit late on my honeymoon until the 3rd of April, and then the set's out not long after that. They've got the full previews, so I don't know what's going to be happening around that time. I've got the whole week until Easter week off as well to spend time with my lovely wife, and I'm looking forward to that. But I will get a primer out there for something, just the videos might be a little bit delayed and I might be a little bit quiet over the coming weeks. But anyway, thanks again for watching the video, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.